Doogie.
Sam.
All season long, I've been telling you the table is fake. But honestly, by the 15th game, I thought it might look a bit more realistic. But either that's not the case, or we are indeed in line for a big shake-up. So I will pose you this question. Which non-Big Six team, traditionally speaking, can sustain this form and potentially scoop a Champions League spot come May?
Crystal Palace, how far can they go past?
They lost less games than anybody else except Arsenal. What's to stop them getting into Champions League?
I want to be positive. I want to say how we want to try and attempt to get close to Europe.
The manager, aka Fabian Herzler, has said that he wants to aim for top 5 this season. Top 5 for Brighton in the Premier League. Is that possible?
I love it. I love the ambition.
The big one. First quote from Unai Emery. My objective is to win the Premier League and Champions League. I love it, man. I absolutely love it.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome to The Truth. I hope this week has brought you prosperity. I hope you enjoyed the World Cup draw, the weekend's action, the midweek Champions League's action, Thursday's football in the Europa League and the Conference League, and I hope you are gearing up and excited for yet more football this weekend. Good Lord, is it not just... Whew, I'm drowning in it. Right, I'm your host, Sam Tighe. Joining me is my friend Doogie Critchley. Hello, Doogie.
Hello, Sam. Yes, it is. This is the fun bit of the season, though. This is the treadmill, you know. There's no international breaks for a while, although the last few have been spectacular. This is game after game after game, and Champions League weeks are always busy ones for me. And then there's the derby this weekend, so I'm just running on coffee and Twitter beef at the moment.
Already?
Well, actually, to be honest, I say probably by Friday, probably by the time this comes out, there would have been at least a bit of Twitter beef, but I've been actually relatively well behaved so far.
I can't trust you to go more than 2 days
No,
without having some
exactly.
kind of argument, though. So we will see. And over the table, across the way, up the river, and then buried deep in the depths of the Upside Down, it's our very own Vecna, producer Jack Collins.
Hello, Sam. That one was lost on me because I've not watched Stranger Things.
Well, it's not lost on you because you know it's from Stranger Things.
Yeah, but that's as far as you said Upside Down, and that's on the Doritos packets at the moment. So that's the only reason I know what that is.
It's everywhere, isn't
there you
it?
go. Yeah, it really is.
Do you just
everywhere.
not watch it at all?
No, I'm not. I don't really do horror.
It's not horror though, is it?
Yeah, it looks
I mean,
relatively scary
I'll
to
be
me.
honest,
I'm not going to lie.
It's actually mega scary. It's designed as like, I think it was designed to be like, yes, a bit edgy, a bit scary, and ultimately like it is like kids being hunted by an alien force, which is, you know, rough. But it's got progressively more and more dark to the point where it is actually like genuinely horror-esque these days.
Well, there we go.
But it did. I don't think it seemed like the intention.
Are you a diehard?
I wouldn't say I'm a die-hard.
You're a semi-fan.
I'm a fan. Oh, I'm a fan.
Oh, you're a fan.
Oh, I'm a fan. You know, I was wanting to log in on the day it was released.
Nice.
I didn't get to do it. But apparently it went down anyway. It crashed because everyone tried to watch it at the same
Really?
time. This isn't a podcast about Stranger Things.
No, thankfully, because I would be useless at producing that.
Although there are some strange things going on in the Premier League, Sam.
Oh, here he is.
Hello.
Here he is. Well, would you like to start by talking about Aston Villa's result? Or
Yeah, I kind of want to actually sort of go to you first on this, but I'll just set the scene briefly because, yes, Aston Villa, I'm sure you would have heard, it was widely talked about this weekend. They beat Arsenal. They're now third. They are 3 points behind Arsenal. And there are only 4 points between Crystal Palace in 4th and Newcastle in 12th. So we thought this week on this week's show, it'd be worth talking about the sort of Champions League chase. We talked about the title race last week. We made some predictions that by the end of the week didn't look as smart as they did in midweek.
Amazing that we spent
just
all
like
that
to
time.
say, I feel incredibly smart.
Yeah.
Well, just because you use black magic to conjure a toast in the steak doesn't make you smart. It makes you evil, okay? Yeah, you genuinely manifested that. You really did. I spent so much of that episode worrying that Arsenal would let me down, only for Chelsea to let me down. And there's no worse feeling than being let down by Chelsea when you don't even really like them very much.
Plus, we were kind of let down by everyone by the end of the week, except for Man City. So Jack was looking more sensible, well, even more sensible than he always does. But let's talk Villa, because you've wanted to talk about Villa a lot this season. Well, actually, for maybe the less so in the first 6 weeks of the campaign. But now, Sam, I suppose the big question is this crazy run of form, which you can get stuck into. Is it sustainable? The topic of this show.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start with Villa in third because they're at top of the lot when it comes to this challenging pack, so we're talking about these traditionally non-Big Six sides, and it really just means almost nothing at this point, but you guys know exactly what we mean by this. There's a bunch of us all chasing glory here, and it looks like there might be an opportunity to do something, because Liverpool are faltering, Chelsea may just crash and burn physically, and there's a question marks over Tottenham, as usual, question marks over Man United. It looks like it could be open, and Villa are at the top of a little cluster of sides here who are sensing an opportunity. And when you go ahead and beat Arsenal, with some caveats that we'll get to, but when you go ahead and beat Arsenal and put in a performance like that, it's enough to make you really start to believe and start to really get excited. Allied with the fact that you've won 9 of your last 10 games. The only loss being Anfield, which was a dreadful performance, and it was the only game Liverpool won for about 6 weeks. Yeah, it's such a silly thing, but it's kind of how football works, I'm afraid. But yeah, that moment from Buendia, the last kick of the game, I did make some interesting noises.
Wild noises.
Yeah.
Quite guttural, I imagine. That's where mine tend to come from.
I think they were quite squealy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were quite squealy. And there was a lot of stamping and running around in circles, because you have to learn when you have a young child that's napping to sort of try and celebrate silently.
Oh, wow.
So it
came out more physically than vocally.
It usually comes out in like I run laps of my lounge. But this time there was some squeals. God, I mean, it was an absurd moment, and it's one of those situations where like I could see it coming, and it sounds absolutely silly to say that sort of thing against a team like Arsenal. But for the last 15 minutes, Villa could sense that Arsenal were on the ropes, and rather than be like, "Well, a point would be pretty good here," they went, "Let's get them." And it's the quickest I've ever seen Villa play under Emery, because renowned as a bit of a slow, methodical, possession-based side. We build up with 15 passes, not 2. That's why Harvey Elliott's not allowed near the ball, because he's too creative, that kind of thing. But here, Emery was baying at his players, screaming at them to hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, get that throw in and get that throw into play really, really quick. Because he could see Declan Rice, like, he was so tired. Like, I've never seen Rice at that time in my life. He was watching the ball go past his feet and not even raising a leg. He was that tired. Nkapie dribbled the ball out of play that led to the throw in that led to the sequence of the goal. Like, they were just gassed, absolutely gassed, and Villa went for it. And there's something to be said here for Villa about having established some muscle memory of just winning. Like, there's been some results in the last 12 months that are really, really important to the mentality and the psyche of the squad, and you can see it kicking in. Villa beat PSG at Villa Park earlier this year, and at the end of last year, they beat Bayern Munich. And I think it's done something to some of these players, and they just never stop, basically. And you could see that manifesting in this Arsenal performance, and you could see the goal coming. I mean, it was an absolute glorious mess, but you could see it coming because they were hunting it. It was fabulous to watch, honestly. But what's really important here in terms of the season prospects is that in the last 3 or 4 weeks, Villa have actually sort of turned the corner on the underlying numbers a bit. So, played 15 games now. I've split the 15 games into 3 sets of 5. The first 5 games.
Does that suit Villa?
It tells a story of 3 parts.
Sure.
First 5 games, dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. 1 goal scored, 3 draws, no wins, 0.6 points per game. XG differential, minus 4.66. Remove that from the sample. Next 5 games, 2.4 points per game. Joint second with City. Arsenal, the only team that got more points during this period, but a minus 0.8 XG differential. This is the long shots FC period of the season.
Yeah.
Only long shots and a solid defence, solid enough. Then it's the last 5 games. Start to perk up. The XG differential is finally a positive. It's 3 points per game, best in the league, and the underlyings are starting to catch up, but they don't look as good as you probably think they would, because the defence has caved in a bit. So, from all of this, I don't know what to say, except that Villa haven't been able to put anything together in full at any point during the campaign. But at least one point all the way through, something has functioned in this team. Early on, the defence kept things tight. Then the long shooters kicked in. Now the chance creation is happening. So right at that point where everybody was going, regression's going to get you, started creating chances, which is throwing the cat amongst the pigeons a little bit in terms of the analysis, because I agree regression was coming. Like, you can't just score, I don't care what anyone says, you can't just keep scoring long shots forever and be successful. But now they've actually started creating chances. There's reason to believe that if you can pull all of that together, actually Villa might be quite good again. And so it's heartening, but it's not confirmed. It's just more growth, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think across the last 5-6 games, if you keep that form going or that sort of level of performance in every game, definitely feels sustainable that you could get top 5 in the Premier League. And we do expect there to be 5 teams in the Champions League next year once again. But it's difficult to say with absolute certainty because there are some pleasing aspects of individuals coming into form. You've already mentioned him, but Emi Buendia coming back from an ACL injury, barely featuring last year. I actually completely forgot that he went on loan to Leverkusen as well. And then the form that he's shown recently, absolutely remarkable. 4 goals and 2 assists now in 13 league games. The fact you've got Yuri Tielemans back, who makes such a massive difference to your ball progression.
He does. I mean, the long shots FC period, Tielemans was injured for. And it's not a coincidence that him returning to the team, the chance creation has upped its levels. It's also no coincidence that Morgan Rogers is currently playing the best football of his entire career, having played the worst football of his entire career in weeks 1 to 5. That is a massive difference maker. And so, can he sustain that? Is it healthy to be that reliant on whether Rodgers is playing well? No, it's obviously not. Cash is playing the best football of his life right now. Do Villa have alternatives to Cash? Nope. There are no other right backs, really. Andres Garcia has not played since May. So there are question marks still. It's not as simple as Rodgers regained form and so Villa are good, but it's a big part of it.
Would you still be concerned about the form of Ollie Watkins? I know he had that great performance against Brighton.
He did, yeah.
But then it's been few and far between this season.
And he was really good against Arsenal except for the finishing. Unfortunately, everybody knew that Ollie was not going to be finishing that massive chance. It's just not his kind of chance. He has too long to think about it. There's still concern, for sure. He does all of the fundamentals for the team, which are really important. So it's not all about the goal scoring for Watkins. But obviously, if your striker doesn't score any goals, it does place a huge strain on everybody else. So it would be nice if he perked up in that department a little bit more as well. But Brighton was really pleasing, and Arsenal was a good step, I think.
I think the next few weeks with all these sides will be so interesting to see what sort of develops, because you've got West Ham, Man United. This is in the league only. West Ham, Man United, which should be an opportunity to pick up some points.
Well, Man United will
Chelsea, Arsenal, and Crystal Palace in 3 of the next 4.
Man United will be tricky for Villa because if there's one kryptonite issue for Villa, it's back threes. So Villa plays super narrow, and if you come across wing backs, it tends to pull Villa apart too much. So Amorim tends to get the better of Villa. He's only played them once, but Amorim's system would get the better of Villa in the way that Glasner's always does, and not just beats Villa, like trashes Villa. And the way that Wolves made life really difficult for Villa at points where they probably shouldn't have because of the back three. So yeah, Palace and United with back threes is a problem. Chelsea and Arsenal back to back, tough. It's going to be an interesting December.
It's the treadmill, as I said.
But it is a treadmill. And the thing is with these games, and it applies for everyone that we talk about today, in the next 5, over the course of that December period, you don't know who's going to crop up injured, who's going to pull a hammy, you don't know who's going to be suspended because the 5 yellow card mark is starting to get hit. For a couple of players, it was hit after 5 weeks.
What do you mean? I was going to say Sasha Lukic just says hi.
Yeah.
Has he had 2?
Yeah, he's on for 10 before Christmas, I think. Well, he has to get back in the team first. But my point was going to be on this, so actually it's a good point to come in, is this squad deep enough to be able to carry this off over minimum 2 fronts? Because we know that Emery is going to want to win the Europa League. He will have his eyes on a trophy. It really does feel like the kind of only thing missing from this era at Aston Villa to kind of put it as this was Emery's era and it was unbelievably successful. I think that will be the case anyway, but you want that kind of shiny bit to put on the mantelpiece. Sure, So I think he will be looking at the Europa League this year and thinking winnable, considering how good Villa were in the Champions League last year. I think he won't be abandoning any cup competitions. You kind of look at it and say, who's going to come in that midfield? Because we know that Emery likes to play, midfielders across the board, right? Whether that's John McGinn playing out on the right or whatever it looks like. I know Lamar Bagard had a good start to the season, really and Ross Barkley is yet to come back from injury, really. He's got injured again. It does feel to me that Villa are very, very light in certain spots in this, and that does worry me in terms of the long-term implications of where this squad can get to.
So it's a factor for sure. I don't think it's a shallow squad. We're going to talk about a team after this, I think, that has a shallower squad. But Villa are pretty stocked for options through the centre midfield, but there's really just one right back, and the step down in quality from Torres and Konsa at centre back down to the next two is humongous. So yeah, I don't know. Like, it's a concern. And especially when you've just come up against an Arsenal team that you just look at like the 12 people they have in their back line and they're so good. And it's like, that's the defensive depth that you really want. So Villa are weak in a couple of points. And, Villa, I assume, are going to finish in the top 8 of the Europa League. They might even get top 2, to be honest with you, but top 8 looks good. So I don't expect them to play the playoff. So then when it comes back round to March and Villa play the round of 16 game, where are you in the league? And if you're third, what changes? Like, with the priorities. And Unai Emery, of course, is going to want to win the Europa League. And it would be his easiest path to silverware this season. But like, the club needs to finish in the Champions League places. And so like, he might pull a Martin O'Neill 2009 and start sending the kids to Russia on the plane and just let them just play out the fixtures. It completely depends on where you are in March.
To be fair, winning the Europa League does give you a Champions League spot.
That's true. That's true.
That's the thing.
But so you've got the two routes. But if you're third in the league, you're going to look at that and go, I think so. It really does depend. It really does depend. And I'm okay with a lot of the depth, but there are two positions that I look at and I go, oh God, that sort of thing. But it's interesting what happens in January. UEFA's squad cost rulings run on a calendar year basis, so they've been trapping Villa for the whole of 2025. The calendar will flip on January the 1st, and suddenly Villa will have more spending allowance under UEFA's rulebook. Now, could Sancho go back? And the wages that are being apportioned to him, which is reportedly 80% of his monstrous wage, could Harvey Elliott go back, even if you have to pay a penalty fee? And
isn't there an obligation with Harvey Elliott if he plays a certain amount of games?
Yeah,
is that right?
Apparently it's 10 games.
What's he on?
He's on 6.
Oof, right.
And he's not allowed to play. Like, he never gets to play. Never gets to play. So, like, there's money that's going to come into play. Like, what can Villa do there? Can they go and actually find a player or two to plug those gaps? And can they make you feel better about it? It remains to be seen. I don't know.
Oof. The thing about Villa, I mean, the last 3 seasons you finished 7th, 4th and 6th. And before a ball was kicked, and actually before you made some late moves in the window, said you'd finish 9th. And I think you said during the summer, you're like, oh, you've gone quite low with Villa. And look, maybe I did. Maybe I did go slightly low. But I'd be surprised if you weren't in that 4th to 8th area now. I think it has been a really crazy turnaround in the last few weeks in terms of momentum, and you do deserve massive respect for it because you've been doing it on multiple fronts as well, and the form of some key individuals coming back into it. I think Daniel Marlon, I don't really rate him that highly as a footballer, but he's very useful in a lot of different styles of games, isn't he? So yeah,
I don't know what Daniel Marlon is except for finisher.
Very quick.
He is a finisher and he runs fast, but what the hell the rest of it is, who knows?
He can strike a ball pretty hard as well.
Yeah, he's a natural hitter. What I will say is this: it has been a lot easier to manage the game load in the midweeks when you're in the Europa League. I would say no disrespect to the Europa League, but there's some disrespect to the Europa League here. Some of the teams that Villa have played have been garbage, like so bad.
Like the go-ahead Eagles.
Well,
very good point, Jack.
Actually, they're a tough nut to crack at home. I think. I don't know. They were so bad. Yeah, but so the home games that Villa have played are just like not. They're not.
It's one-sided.
They're not.
Just release Marlon.
They're not competitive games.
He loves it.
So it's been easier to prioritise the weekend. Whereas obviously last season with the Champions League, it's like Villa's big problem was trying to pick up points off the back of the Wednesday. This year, Villa have been almost perfect coming off the Europa League. Big difference. And I'm now watching...
That will change, though, when it gets to the actual crunch time of the Europa League. Right?
It will. But it lessens the strain through the first half of the season quite nicely. And it means that Villa can rotate the team better. So Villa couldn't really rest players on the midweek last year because they had to play against Bayern, they had to play against Juventus. Whereas now, really happy to bring in the reserves here. And Villa's spread of the minutes is looking a bit more healthy. And I'm going to compare it in a bit to what Palace are doing when we talk about them. And that for me, Emery knows how to deal with this, so that's good. But it's been easier to manage that game load, which has been quite nice to see as well.
Yeah, just finally on Villa, and not to burst any Villa fans' balloon listening to this, but even during this crazy run of form, you've still won games against Leeds, Bournemouth, Man City and Spurs. So Spurs and Leeds, not particularly great sides this year, whilst creating less XG than them. So it has... I think the last few results have the last 2 or 3 have looked a lot more comfortable than the previous, even 4 or 5 in that run.
No, I think that's very fair. I think had it continued in the way that it was, like the Spurs underlyings and stuff, then you'd be worried. You would not be talking about it in a sense. But the last 2 or 3 weeks, the last 2 or 3 games have shown really obvious improvement in that area. So, but look, as I've said, like at the same time, the defense has kind of caved in a bit at the same time. So they still haven't really put it all together yet. But you know this team probably can, because over the last 3 years, they've been the 4th best team in the league. And the rest of the teams we're going to talk about here don't have that to their credit. They don't have that to their name. They're trying to punch up into that bracket and make that kind of impact.
Yeah. We'll make some predictions at the end of the show about who finishes where as well. But should we move on to Crystal Palace?
Yeah, for sure. Great team.
Great team. and like some crazy stats around them that I found that I'm sure a lot of people have seen. But I mean, well, this one's not a very difficult one to find, but they've only lost 3 league games this season: Everton, Arsenal and Man United. Arsenal are the only side that have lost fewer. They are level with Villa on that. They're currently 4th in the league, as everyone knows, but they've recorded the most Premier League away clean sheets of any side since December last year. And I do often think the sort of vibe of a side and what you can really take from a side is often set by how they perform away from home when the going's tough and there's people baying for blood and they're not in their home environment. And they've won 5 of their 8 away matches this season. They're on 16 points away from home. That's top of the away table. That's 2 ahead of Chelsea. And they've just had phenomenal momentum ever since Oliver Glasner took over. There's really kind of been no backward step. Like, he took over in February 2024 from Roy Hodgson. He equalled that season their highest ever finish of 10th, their highest points tally of 49 up to that stage. The next year, they topped that with 53 points and won the FA Cup. And now they find themselves 4th, a decent way into this season. And whereas Villa's underlying numbers across this entire season, which we have already covered, are a little bit troubling, Palace's are really good. They are 4th for XG. They are 6th for XG against. They're 3rd for expected points behind Arsenal and City. And they are very, very good at carving out high quality opportunities. I think they could even be, slightly higher than they are, or at least have more points on the table if someone like Jean-Philippe Mateta, who I do think has played well this season, but he's also had some big games where he's missed a number of opportunities as well. And there's been key individuals in this side performing above and beyond their usual level. I think Dean Henderson in goal. I think Mark Gehi putting aside a massive summer of transfer speculation to produce the form he has this season. And we talked about Adam Wharton in glowing terms a couple of weeks ago as well. What a phenomenal player he is to watch. Just one of my favourite, most entertaining players.
Some cracking passes at the weekend, though.
Just brilliant. Also, shout out Jeremy Pino. I don't think he's necessarily got the numbers so far this season, but what an impact he's had. I think every time I watch him play, I'm just so impressed. So I'm loving the Palace journey.
Yeah, love it too. Love the manager. Love the group of players, really. Love the system. They have a tactical system that just works. It just works. And you've reeled off quite a lot of good stats there. I've got a couple more to add. Second only to Arsenal this season in set-piece XG.
Nice.
Palace are running the fine margins and they are finding advantages in places that others are not paying attention to. Now, it hasn't necessarily played out in terms of like overwhelming amount of goals from set pieces, but they're creating a lot of chances from set pieces and eventually they'll start going in. They're very, very strong from these situations. Playing into this is they are, for my money, the second best long throw-in team in the league, behind only Brentford. They have 3 throwing goals this season, which is joint first with Brentford, and they're all long throw situations. Jeff Lerma can absolutely hurl it, and so can Chris Richards. Absolutely superb. And Mark Gay's first contact is brilliant as well.
You said the throwing coach, whose name I slightly forgot.
Thomas
Gronemark. He was hot on them, wasn't he? As throw-in takers.
He was relatively. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was. Yeah. I mean, the stats prove it. Like they're scoring the goals from these situations. Yeah, they're finding ways to be successful here in clever ways, and they've conceded 12 goals. They've got the second best defensive record in the league and the fourth best on the underlying numbers. Like, they're really solid. They're really good. I do have some concern about how far can 11 players go.
This is it,
and that is a bit of a gross oversimplification, but 11 of Palace's players have started 15 games or more this season, so very, very settled. They don't have a lot of depth. 7 players have played 1,600 minutes or more. Lacroix is already over 2,000. Now, he stands in the middle of a back three. It's not as demanding, but there's a lot of travel involved here. There's a lot of games that Palace are racking up. They're already on 23, I think. They've got the Carabao Cup still in it, FA Cup to come. Got their first European campaign, which they're bang up for, and they are not necessarily using the squad to its full potential. Now, I'm saying that while also saying they don't have that many options. But even the ones that they do, they don't tend to use very much. My fun stat for you is that Eddie Nketiah has started 2 games this season. That is the same number as the backup goalkeeper, and it is only one more than a Berry Eza started for Palace this season, who has been an Arsenal player since August the 23rd. There is a lack of trust in some of the fringe players from Glasner, and he wasn't given a ton of new players over the summer. He doesn't have a European squad at his disposal. He's going to have to be a little bit clever this season. He's got this Ismaila Sarr situation right now with the injury and then potentially AFCON. He's got the Mark Gay situation coming up in January where he might leave. And for all of these reasons there, I know what a team looks like when they've fought on 3 fronts all season long with only 15 players or 14 players and then got to April and just gone, vroom. Mm-hmm. I know what it looks like because I saw it 2 years ago. And my fear is that Palace end up like that, brilliant as they are. And there's some hiccups here in January that they may need to avoid as well. So I don't want to be too much of a downer on them because I think they're brilliant. However, this is a very tall task facing them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the summer business Oliver Glasner has talked about in the last few weeks and how he didn't necessarily get the players that he wanted to. And you mentioned Walter Benitez, but Borna Sosa's barely played as well. And it's also partly because their starting 11 is winning a lot of games, as we've just covered. Yeah. And are you going to put Borna Sosa in for Tyreek Mitchell, who's one of the most solid defensively sound left-backs in the league?
Having a
Probably
great season.
not. No, Dean Henderson's been brilliant. Are you going to put Walter Benitez in? Do goalkeepers even need to rotate to the same extent? Probably not. They signed that young defender, is he called Canvo?
JD Canvo.
Yeah,
he hasn't played much.
He hasn't played much at all. So there's no real need to at this stage. But when Munoz, Mateta, Henderson, Gehi and Lacroix have started all 5 of their Conference League games, where their form has actually been a little bit more up and down compared to Villa at least.
Well, I'm sorry, but there's a muscle memory to European football as well. And these guys, a lot of them won't have it. Like, I don't know what it is, but you need the experience. It just is one of those things.
I've got it's not working. I've got a simpler theory. When Palace don't have the ball, they're really good.
Of course.
When Palace have the ball, they're not very good.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the games against Fredrikstad. We saw that in the game against Ike Larnaca. Like, if you give Palace the ball, they're a bit like one-dimensional. And like, I'm a bit stunned that no one has really worked this out in the Premier League yet. Because like, they don't want it.
Because they did it all last year as well. They sit in the mid-block.
So this was going to be my point, right? Like, we sat here last year and we talked about Nuno's Forest, right? And towards the back end of the season, they got a bit tired. But also, people just worked out how to play them, right? And I do wonder if that will happen with Palace. And look, again, I have nothing but respect for this team. Like, going and winning the FA Cup last year, then winning the Community Shield, like it's every fan's dream, right? Like, I look at Palace as a Fulham fan and think that that's the perfect season. I couldn't ask for anything more. And so, like, this isn't to play them down. And obviously, we played them on Sunday, right? And they didn't look great, and they get 3 points, and that's what you need to do, right? They stay in these conversations. They JD Canvo came on for Nat Klein, who was deputising for Munoz, who was injured, and you're thinking, well, Palace want the point here, and then they nick it with the set piece, which is smart, and there's no sort of Marco Silva lost that game. It's one of those, right? Like, I'm not blaming any things apart from that, but I do wonder if there comes a point where teams just get a bit smarter against Palace, because
you'd think it would happen. However, do you remember Leicester all season when they won the title?
Yeah,
no one really figured out that Jamie Vardy's got a bit pacing behind him.
I do take it. I do think the squad looks very, very light.
It's so thin.
I think that's a worry. Glasner loves the players he loves, and actually, you see when he does make changes, and he has made a couple. in the Conference League. And you look at that Larnaca game where, the goal is given up by JD Canvo coming into the back line, and Glasner's like, that's why I don't change anyone. Because, they're so used to playing with each other and they've built that kind of connection. Like, I don't know if it's sustainable, and I also don't know if they have money to spend in January.
Yeah, so the problem that they've got is the same thing that I've been talking about with Villa for a while as well, which is this is a very good team. To get into this Palace team, you have to be really good. And guess how much good players cost? Loads.
30, 40 million.
And like they don't like they
plus.
just like I don't know what they've got in the coffers. The Conference League won't be helping them out here financially. Like I think it's a financial negative up until a certain point. Like
Really?
it costs you more than you get in prize money until about the quarters.
Blimey.
It's not. It doesn't have the prize money that even a Europa League will give you, let alone a Champions League. So there's all sorts of factors at play here, and it's just like point blank hard to improve this Palace team. For Pino to step in and like just take the Eza mantle and be really quietly really good. Hasn't got the goals and assists to show for it, but you're right. Every time I watch him, I'm like, oh, he's a genius. I knew he was a genius years ago, though, so I was gutted when they signed him. But that in itself is such a huge result to not have that a massive step down from Eza. It's going to be hard for them to find other players to slot in. So yeah, we will see what happens over the course of the season. But they are up against it in terms of just like volume here.
They've probably also got the added factor of, and they obviously considered this last summer, but they're about to lose one of their best players either in January or for free. And you mentioned this earlier, but I think it's actually more likely to be on a free next summer. I'm not sure whether Mark Gehi wants to move with 6 months to go before the World Cup, where he is almost nailed on to start
Tell
for
you what,
England.
he'd be nailed on to start for Liverpool right now.
He would be, but then you're joining a team not in such good momentum. Do you want to upset it? Also,
Doesn't want to take a step down.
You'll earn so much more in the summer if you join as a free transfer as well. So I'd be very surprised if he moved this January, but I've been wrong many times before.
Yes, well, look, I don't know what's going to happen there, and neutral hat on. I hope he stays. I hope he stays and sees out the season because Palace could achieve something special again here, whether that be a Champions League berth or a Conference League win, whatever it is. If you're the Premier League team in the Conference League, you're probably going to be the favourites. And so this is an opportunity. We will see. Regardless of whether or not he goes, there will be 31 days of chat. It's going to be so
Sky is gearing up.
It's going to be really annoying, and it's going to affect things, I think.
I also think that just while we're on the Champions League conversation and like teams finishing it, you were saying earlier about Unai Emery, but like if Villa are third come March, right? Like what do they prioritise? And his view might be different to the actual club's view. I think almost everyone at Palace would be unilaterally like go and win the Conference League, go and win a European trophy in a
Over
way.
finishing the Champions League.
I think so. Like
That is an interesting question.
I genuinely believe.
I don't know how they feel.
I think that Glasner would look at that, and also like Glasner is in the position of power here, right? Because he hasn't signed a new contract, and he'll be like, I want to prioritize winning a European trophy. I think they'd have to be like, yeah, right, fair enough. Like I think that considering the run that Palace are on, where they've won 2 trophies in the space of 6 months, right? Like if
but
they
that's
were
the
like
kind of reason why I think that he wouldn't be.
no, but
as
like he's
bothered.
like add the treble,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
the
don't
treble.
think you're going to look at it and say, I don't think if Palace got in the Champions League spots, I don't think suddenly they have £100 million to spend next summer and then they're able to build a squad out that's able to. You can't invest all of that. It has to be over multiple years in order to try and get that financial capital. I think they will look at it and say, putting another piece of silverware in the cabinet for a club that had not won anything, before last summer, to go and win 3 trophies in the space of 12 months would be absolutely unbelievable. And look, I'd love to hear what Palace fans think about that.
Yeah.
But
Get in
if
touch.
I was a Palace, if this was Fulham, if we'd won the FA Cup and the Community Shield and we had the opportunity to win a European trophy to cap it off or get in the Champions League spots, I'd take the trophy every single day of the week.
But isn't that Fulham? I don't know. Isn't that Fulham because you haven't ever won anything? I don't mean to rub it
Maybe
in.
no. I get it, but I'm saying if we'd won the two in ahead, I think we'd still be like win a European one, and then suddenly you're like, oh,
We're a
we've
big
won
boy.
We've won the 7th most trophies in the modern era. We're on, lads. It's on.
I just text one Palace fan while you were talking. So I have a sample of one.
Nice.
He wrote "Gah" UCL spot.
Really?
There you go.
Interesting.
But that
I've
is
been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again.
that is one person. That's
That
one
is wrong.
person. And if you really want to play, that game, I got 6 months of this when Villa were in the Conference League and gunning for the Champions League. Which one would you prefer? You have to pick one. Which one you prefer? And I changed my mind about 8 times. So even though you can poll one person, they can say one thing. It doesn't. It's anyone's guess, really.
Yeah.
There's 2 obvious thought processes there. One is have a cracking 13 months. The other is can you use the money to build new facilities, revenue streams, and take a step towards becoming a more sustainably top club. Does anyone want that? I don't know. Who knows? We'll see.
Let's see indeed. I think we should move on and talk about Everton because they've got 24 points, kind of out of nowhere. They are 6th in the league. They're only 2 points off 4th place Crystal Palace. We'll get into it in due course. I'm not as convinced about them as I am some of the other teams we'll talk about.
For the first 10 games of the season, I told you that the table was fake.
Yeah.
And my primary example of that was Sunderland's position in the table.
Sure.
The table remains...
Still nice.
No, Sunderland are starting to filter to a more normal spot.
Sure.
But the table remains fake, and the proof is Everton have 24 points.
Yeah. I mean, they've won 4 of their last 5 games. Their only defeat in that time was that 4-1 defeat at home to Newcastle.
That was absolutely dreadful.
Yeah.
Really
They've beaten Fulham, they've beaten Man United, they've beaten Bournemouth, they've beaten Forest in that time. Bear in mind, they only won 11 games in the entirety of last season. It is quite a turnaround. Underlying numbers, we've heard a lot about underlying numbers. They're very mid-table for Everton. I do think they've got some players that are having quietly, it's not even that quiet, just brilliant seasons. I think everyone went a bit Jack Grealish, myself included, maybe a bit Jack Grealish crazy in the first 4 weeks of the season. This is now Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall and Iliman Ndiaye just taking it to a new level, particularly Dewsbury Hall. That goal he scored.
BDO.
Yeah.
Dewsbury Hall Ballon d'Or charger. On. It's on.
That goal he scored against, I think it was Newcastle a couple of weeks ago, where I think it was in the running for goal of the month in November, where he takes it down with one foot and finishes with the other from inside the 6-yard box, close to the 6-yard box. It was beautiful. It was unbelievable. It was a weekend where all the best goals were in losing causes. There was that Richarlison one against Arsenal, Tyler Adams against Sunderland. Maybe I'm actually mixing up and those were 2 separate weekends. But either way, it was a month of just crazy goals and losing causes. And Dewsbury Hall, it's so refreshing because this guy absolutely killed it in the Championship with Leicester, moves to Chelsea, very much part of that sort of B squad, which must have been a demoralising position to be in.
Yeah, horrible stuff.
And you're just getting minutes in the Conference League, looking pretty useful there, but you're just never going to get a run in the Premier League. And
my conspiracy theory there was, and this is completely unproven and utterly crackpot, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do you remember when Chelsea tried to get Sarri from Napoli?
I do.
And they got quoted huge amount of compensation. So they did a double deal for Jorginho and Sarri to make it look like they weren't spending loads of money on a manager. Maresca, KDH.
Maybe.
Chelsea have got form for it. Leicester had problems with PSR. I don't know. We'll see. But it did feel a bit like a package deal in one way, at least, because Enzo Maresca had just managed Dewsbury Hall at Leicester, got loads from him. Like, he was probably one of the best players in the Championship that season, without a doubt. I was going to say probably the best, maybe. Yeah. I can't remember exactly, but it was
amazing. I think it was 26 league goals.
He was so good. So you were thinking that he would at least try and give him a spot, but he really didn't. Like, which makes me think no one's heart was really in it. But to be fair to Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, why am I keep full naming him? I don't know.
He is a player that you do that with, though.
Yeah,
he's one of those that you just. Yeah. He's always the full name.
To be fair to KDH BDO, he really made the most of his minutes, as you were saying, and is really making the most of his move to Everton. I was a big fan of this move in the summer when it happened.
Smart.
A decent price, just like mid-20s millions.
I wasn't, just because I thought he was coming to the cottage.
Yeah.
What we could have done with Dewsbury Hall. Jesus.
So Everton, 85% of the time, look like a perfectly normal, well-behaved football team.
Functional, yeah.
The other 15% of the time, either offensively utterly anemic, couldn't score a goal in 900 minutes of consecutive play, or defensively have just dropped one of the biggest bombs of all time. Just every now and then they just pop one of these performances in. But for the most part, they look really like functional and sensible. And those bad points, they really just spook me a little bit. It's the same as what we were talking about with Tottenham when I was like, yeah, sure, Tottenham may have a lot of points, but did you see them against Bodo Glimt? Any team that can do that, I cannot trust. And I think I'm a bit there with Everton right now. Grealish and KDH, brilliant. Defence, solid.
Yeah.
Like defensively, like really aerially dominant.
Like defenders.
Yeah, really good. The strikers, guys. The strikers.
I like Tierno Barry. I like Tiano Barry.
Good for you. David Moyes may not.
I'm Doogie. I like Tiano Barry.
So, Beto, 2 goals from an XG of 5.51.
Yeah, it's rough stuff.
That is Beto, isn't it? That's what he does.
I thought he was going to be all right. Yeah, I liked him.
I like Beto. I like Beto at the best of times, but
it hasn't worked out.
no, I mean
He's fine.
he does stuff.
Yeah.
Things can only get better.
Hey,
They may not. I think that's my point.
it can.
I think that might be the actual problem, is that his 2 goals from an XG of 5.51 may be about right for Beto. What we really need is more than 1 goal from 2.91 XG from Tiano Barry. Because again, there's parts of his game that look really nice. But there's the little moments where I'm like, is that Yaya Sanogo in an Everton shirt? Which is really bothersome.
There's some strikers, so there's some clubs that just don't work for strikers. Everton, West Ham,
yeah.
Classics.
Yeah,
Chelsea,
Yeah.
Classics.
Look into that.
Yeah.
We'll do an episode of that. The truth.
The truth on strikers.
Are
at
these
Chelsea,
clubs
Everton, and
clubs
West Ham.
cursed when it comes to strikers? Yeah, the underperformance is really bad, and the problem is I don't necessarily see it getting any better. So with someone like, I don't know, let's just take Watkins as an example. Like, he's got enough credit in the bank for you to believe that like he'll snap out of it and he'll score 10 goals in 23 games or whatever it is. For Beto, you have no confidence in that happening, and for Barry, you really just have no clue. So I don't think Everton can sustain a top 5 level, but they're top 10 material as long as they maintain functionality for 85% of their games, which they are currently doing.
I also don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but I don't think it really matters if Everton don't finish in Champions League contention. I know Moyes has mentioned it a couple of times, that we could do a Forest from last season. But in the last few years, they finished 16th, 17th, 15th and 13th over the last 4 seasons. Like, take a 10th, take a 12th, guys. Like, there is literally no rush. A lot of people before a ball was kicked said, moving into a new stadium, really difficult. I think they've made that transition look so much more simple than, well, West Ham have never made it look comfortable. Spurs, it took even a little while. There's,
Emirates
numerous
was a bit
clubs.
funky.
Emirates was a bit funky for a number of years as well. No one's like, oh, they're struggling with the Hill Dickinson. Everyone's like, what an amazing turnaround.
Confirmed. No one has ever said that.
No.
No, because we're calling it the Dixie. This is a bit. We're going with the Dixie. It has historical value. It has leverage. The Dixie is a great name for a stadium. The Hill Dickinson is not.
It's rubbish.
So that's it.
What's a law firm doing sponsoring a
Is
space?
it a law firm? I didn't even know what it was.
I think it's
a local law firm. It's really
yeah.
cool. I'm into it. Like I think it's cool that a local business is sponsoring a stadium. Like I'm really down for that in the Premier League. What I will say is like when you're talking about I know. It's just sort of slightly wild, but it is what it is. When you're talking about like Everton and is there any rush? The only thing is like I loved David Moyes coming out the other day and basically being like, I'm too old to be like, I want to stay up. He's like, I want to get into Europe. I want to go to adventures with Everton. I want to see what happens. I want to push as far as we can, as quickly as we can. We've got a wicked new stadium. We've got a really good team that I believe in. As you say, functionality is there from a backline perspective. I think that Dewsbury Hall dropping into the 8 alongside James Garner looked really good against Forest at the weekend. Garner can play in a number of different positions. They can rotate that a little bit, but I think Dewsbury Hall playing deeper allows Charlie Alcaraz to play as the 10, who's a bit of a pressing machine and also gets back in to help and make it a 3-man midfield, which is useful.
The key there as well is when Grealish has 3 players on him, the 10 has to run beyond Grealish into the box. So KDH was doing a lot of this early in the season and Alcaraz can do it as well. They temporarily experimented with Iliman and Diaye in the 10, but he doesn't run beyond the ball, so they weren't working the circuits properly. And then they switched him back over to the right, and Alcaraz came in, and he does it. So all of this works. People need to run off Grealish. Mm-hmm. As long as they have someone running off Grealish, will deal with 3 players at once, find the ball, and on the right, Ndiaye has a one-on-one every single time. Like it's a formula that can work. It can, and I think Moyes, after a little bit of trial and error, has genuinely figured out exactly what it takes for all of this to work. So that's great. But the strikers do need to finish some chances.
They do.
It will just mean they drop too many points in certain positions.
And as Tyler Diblin will attest to, Moyes is not really rotating at the moment either, that dramatically with his forward line. And I'm sure he'd like some more minutes.
Isn't there like a pretty customary 60-minute sub for whichever striker's not performing on the day?
Barry always looks like someone has literally just stabbed him in the back when he's got to go off. It's so upsetting. He's so emotional every time he's getting subbed. He just wants it to work so much. He looks so sad.
Yeah, well, it's a big opportunity for him.
It is.
Really
It is indeed.
Right, so we're both a little cold on Everton, although appreciative of
12th.
the qualities.
12th, Your Honour.
12th? That's too low.
12?
That's too low.
I think there are sides that will finish above them. Yeah.
Hang on. I'm just looking at
12?
I still think Bournemouth could finish above them. I think Newcastle could finish above them.
They don't like, as in, if this was Palace and you were like, they're
Brighton?
going to go on an absolute, like, fall down the table, like, because they're going to run out of steam, then I disagree, but I could understand where you're
There's
coming
4
from.
points between 4th and 12th at the moment.
Yeah, I just feel like Everton are just getting very, very, like, they don't feel like a team that's going to fall apart and lose 5 games in a row.
12th is good.
They won't do that.
12th
The
is
team
fine.
the team we're going to talk about next might do that. Brighton.
Brighton.
I don't really know what to say about Brighton, and what's really disheartening there is that, Doogie, before recording, you told me that of all the teams we're going to talk about, you had the fewest notes on Brighton, and I assume that's not laziness or bad time management on your part. It's because you also just can't really put your finger on them.
Yeah, it's confusing because
Yeah.
I really liked a lot of their summer business. In fact, before a ball was kicked, I was like, I think De Kuyper will be the signing of the season. And actually, he's had a good last couple of weeks, to be fair. And I also said Brighton would finish 5th. And to be fair, they're in 7th at the moment. But it's not really because of the reasons that I thought they'd be in 7th, if that makes sense. Like a lot of the new signings, we haven't really seen that much of Kuselas so far, although he did look quite bright at the weekend. Simas, the kind of same story. Coppola's barely got going as well. He's played 17 minutes. Boscagli's played 53.
They do have this great ability to buy players for next year, though, don't they?
For sure. That's nothing to panic about too much.
The old red shirt.
But because I
strategy
was
we
hot
talk
on a
about.
lot of their new players, it's still kind of the old guard. I mean, there's never really an old guard at Brighton. Because
There definitely is. His name's James Milner.
True. He barely plays, though, and Danny Welbeck, to be fair, as well. But I think there are, I'm almost surprised that they have done as well as they have done. I mean, but they have beaten Man City, they've beaten Chelsea, they've beaten Newcastle so far this season. I think the reason that no one's that hot on them or cold on them is because they haven't won more than 2 league games in a row so far this season. So it's never been like they've reeled off 4 wins and everyone's like, oh, Brighton are a serious side. There's always... They're always just in every game. The results are very up and down, but respect for
winning
them.
3 games in this Premier League economy is pretty tough.
Absolutely.
We're not beating them with that stick
No.
there, but they're not jumping off the page at you.
Absolutely not. I think, there's players in this squad that I think are having very decent seasons. Van Hecker, I think, continues to emerge as one of the best centre-backs outside the top 6, I think. I think Danny Welbeck can be very proud of what he's done as well. I think Yankuba Minter's having a very underrated season as well, particularly in terms of his ball carrying. But
Minter's playing really well.
Yeah, 1
Been
goal and
super
4
impressed with
assists.
him.
There's moments, there's things to be happy about. I still want to see more from Kadioglu on the left. De Kuyper, as I said, has started to get going. And then Carlos Baleba, you actually watched the game against Villa last week and you kind of said, guys, he's looking like he's coming back.
I just
to somewhere near his
wanted
best.
it, for everyone's notes, because I think we'd all been watching
I've been a bit mean on him, yeah.
Baleba. Well, no, not mean. I mean, he keeps getting withdrawn at half-time for a reason.
Yeah.
He's had a poor first half of the season, just making sure everyone is aware that obviously he turned up against my team. That's what I was doing. No, he was great against Villa. Great. Everywhere, across the pitch. Every second ball, every duel. Oh, he's recovered the ball. Oh, there he is. Oh, no, he's gone over there. The Baleba you know and love just covers the whole pitch, which was nice to see because he's a really good player and clearly the summer affected him. And if he can return to that kind of form consistently, we might start to talk about Brighton in a slightly different light. But they do vex me a little bit, Brighton. And I'm actually a bit wary sometimes of just thinking have I just not watched them enough because I'm so confused? But if you remember at the end of last season, maybe February, March or whatever it is, we did an episode on Fabian Hürzeler because I was like, guys, I don't really know if he's good or not.
Yeah, I do remember you saying that.
And I regret to inform you that, most of the year on, I still don't really get them. And what I mean by that
I think I've seen a lot of Brighton fans say the same thing, to be fair. They're not crazy keen on him.
What I think I mean by that is that what I think he wants Brighton to be, which is super high energy, aggressive team, and what Brighton's players have been for a long time, which is a bit slower, possession-based ball-playing guys, especially the centre-backs, right?
Yeah.
You want a lot of touches, most passes attempted and completed in the league across all players so far this season. Top is Virgil van Dijk, next is Van Hecker, and third, I think, is Lewis Dunk.
Yeah.
And it's I'm getting mixed messages from what Brighton are and want to be. And it makes it really difficult for me to like judge them appropriately, because I don't know if I should judge them by what they are or what I think they want to be and where they're trying to get to. But I love about half of their players, and I've certainly seen them play well this year. I don't think I've seen them blow the doors off anyone, but I'm not going to start criticising anyone for that, because Villa haven't really blown the doors off anyone either.
Neither am I.
They don't have to do that to pick up points. They just confuse me. And unfortunately, they confuse you too, so we have no answers.
I don't have a definitive take on them other than they're probably a solid Premier League outfit in the same way that Bournemouth are now. I don't think they will qualify for the Champions League, if I'm totally honest. I'd even be slightly surprised if they finished in the top 7. I think they'll be in that Everton area of 8th to 12th, which I don't think is any shame.
The Everton area of 8th
The Everton
to 12th.
area.
And the Villa area was 4th to 9th.
Yeah.
Doogie, these brackets.
All the big predictions from Doogie
The
today,
hot
is
takes.
it?
It's hot takes
Oh my
non-stop.
God.
Look, I don't think they'll qualify for the Champions League. Do you?
No, that's no.
Well, that's fair enough, isn't it? So where do you think they'll finish? Probably
that's completely fine. That's
8th to 12th.
Completely fine. The reason I don't think Brighton sustain it is they look like a team who are just as capable of winning 4 in a row as going 4 without a win, and you ain't going to sustain a top 5 challenge if you are that kind of team. That's where I've landed on it.
So I had them 5th in my preseason predictions as well.
You
but for,
too?
But for slightly different reasons to Doogie, because I am well aware of the Brighton red shirting policy of basically not playing anyone for a year, right?
Jack likes last summer's business.
So I do like last summer's business, and I think we're starting to see some real pickups on that. Brian Gruder, I think, has had a very quietly good season. I think, again, we spoke about Yankuba Minta. Like, some of those players are starting to really come good. Kadioglu, I think, is going to come good. I do feel like Brighton are... I agree with you, Sam, in that they do feel like the kind of team that could go 4 without a win.
Yeah.
But I also think that they might just have a period where they steamroll a couple of sides, where everything clicks, and suddenly everyone's like, whoa, Brighton. And if it stays as close as this, if that period comes at the right time, that's why I'm not like big backtracking on that 5th prediction. Because I think you could get to a period in like April and Brighton are, let's say, 8th, right? And they're like 5 points off 5th, and they win 4 games in a row, and suddenly you're in late April, early May, and you're like, oh, there's 2 games to go, and Brighton are now 5th because they've won the last 4 on the bounce. And I think they feel like the kind of squad that have the capability of doing that. I also think the fact that they don't have European football in a period where Aston Villa and Crystal Palace do, in particular, where they are going to be able to probably go for broke in that bit where Villa and Palace have to make decisions on how they're playing out the end of the season. I don't think that Brighton have got to anywhere near their final form yet this season. And yet, obviously, the weekend's performance against West Ham, just take as an example, they were just really quite poor for a lot of that
Very
game.
dull
Shot
game.
on target for a very
They were
long time.
very, very bad for a lot of that game. And I was watching it being like, this is the kind of game that you win this and suddenly you're right in that conversation.
Yeah.
You're right in the heart of it. And it's frustrating to watch as a neutral because you're like, I know you have more in the tank. I just feel like they will work it out. I think we'll see more of a rotation with Simas and Welbeck going forward. I think Kostoulas will work his way into this team to start to compete with Jorginho Ruta, and I think that will drive their levels up. So I'm not completely shot on my Brighton bit yet. I'm probably hotter than both of you by the sounds of it, but I can understand why you're a little bit
Just
all over the
tepid.
place.
There's something to be said for Brighton getting this far, putting this many points on the board, having not had Mitoma for quite a long time,
true.
and having to convert a defensive midfielder to play right back for most of the season.
He's played quite well, though, hasn't he?
He has, but like these are problems and fixes.
Yeah.
So when Jack says they're not their final form, that's totally right.
I also like Jack Hinchelwood. Just leaving that out there. I think
Do
he's
you like
good.
him more than Jack Collins?
Do you like him more than Tiano Barry? Is the big question we should be asking.
I like Jack Hinchelwood too. We have got Brighton, as in Sunderland do, the weekend after this at the Amex, and I'm going to that. So I will come back and update my Brighton take, but I do not think they are Champions League worthy.
Yeah.
I think they are a decent side.
Anywhere between 6th and 14th for me.
Perfect. I do think on the back of not making the hottest prediction so far, I think we should actually get out the top 5 or 6.
Before we do that, would you like to spend any time talking about Newcastle United? Newcastle United are not in the traditional Big Six. They're not a member of it. and we haven't discussed them.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do about that?
Yeah, I think Newcastle will finish significantly higher than Brighton and Everton, to be totally honest. I'm not quite sure about Aston Villa and Palace. I think they've actually performed quite poorly against expectations at the start of this season, but there's obviously reasons behind that. You know, their big experienced striker signing in terms of Premier League experience. Johan Vissa's not been fit to play a minute. Nick Pope has been pretty bad when he's played, has now been injured, and Ramsdale's come in. There's been centre-backs trying to find fitness as ever with Newcastle over the last couple of years. It feels like they haven't really recovered from that year. Was it the year before last where everyone was fully fit for the entire year? Bruno Guimaraes is having an amazing year.
It was the year when they didn't have European football.
Yeah.
Right? So
Joe Linton's also slightly been off it as well, which is strange because he's been so consistent for so long. But there's some players in this side that are performing at a really high level. I think Tino Livramento, since he's come back from injury, excellent. Bruno Guimaraes has been brilliant all year.
Lewis Hall has been great.
Lewis Hall, when he's been fit. I think Sandro Tonali is now just can kind of, in those Newcastle-esque games where it's just an absolute sort of chaos.
It's the blood and
scrum.
thunder style
yeah,
ones. Yeah,
Tonali's who you want, isn't it? Perfect. I think Jacob Murphy's still like really, really performing to a high level. They've been frustrated with Elanga. They've been frustrated with Gordon. But I think they will finish 6th, 7th area, which in a year where it looks like they'll probably make the playoffs at the very least of the Champions League. Solid season. And I think there's a decent chance that this derby at the weekend, I at the moment, it's head versus heart for me. I think they are coming in a reasonable moment.
I do get that it's difficult to really like nail down like the objective analysis on a team like that in your position. I do get it. The conversation with Newcastle is always the same. In the year that they are playing Champions League football, are they able to stomach the fatigue that their style sets in? And once again, they are really struggling in the game after the Champions League. And their away form this season has been atrocious.
For a rod.
Now, you are the game off the back of the Champions League. So they've got Leverkusen, right?
Away. Yeah.
So not easy. Not easy at all. And the trend has been that they've struggled in those kind of games. This is the kind of thing that really sets you back. So if you're looking at Brighton and saying, well, you don't have that to worry about. If you're looking at Everton and saying you don't have that to worry about. And like Villa and Palace, they don't have anywhere near as difficult games on the midweek as Newcastle do. And you're seeing it play out. So how far do they go in this tournament? And how long does that bug them and plague them and affect them? And, cause injuries, really, because when they do try to slow down and play with a less intensive style, they're not very good at it. Like, they've been built to play at 110 miles an hour. And when they're not really able to do that for fitness reasons, they look half the team. So I think they're a conundrum. And I'm not convinced that these early season issues are just blips that they're easily overcome, because I think they're pattern based, and it means that they're going to struggle with them over and over again. I've seen it before, and I think I'm seeing it again. So I'd like to see something a bit different from Newcastle before I say, no, you're going to be okay. You're going to rise above this time.
They need to sign a left back in January. That's what they need to do. They need to sign a left back who's capable of fitting in at left back and playing the style that they want. Because when Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento are on those flanks, Newcastle look really good. I think that Lewis Miley stepping in this season, after the big injury last year, he's looked really good in that midfield, and it allows you to rotate a little bit. And Joe Willock coming back into there. There's depth in those areas now, and which they couldn't cope with. Yeah. Wissa coming back in will be a help. And I think there's going to be a point where they play with Voltemada and Wissa.
Oh, but they better.
And one stretching and one dropping.
What happens? I don't know. I can't wait to see it.
I think that if Newcastle can literally get a new left back, they'll be in the conversation, because then suddenly it does look like you can rotate. You can actually you have pieces in place. Rico Henry's contract is up in January. Sorry, not in January. It's up in June. If you go and put 10 million on the table to Brentford, they almost have to take it if they don't think Rico Henry is going to sign a new contract. And I know he's had injury issues, right? Like I'm not suggesting that he's the perfect fit, but he's a wonderful footballer. If you can get Rico Henry fit, he would slot in here like an absolute glove. And I think that if you're looking at players to just be like, can you get someone in there who can do that for 6 months, and when Lewis Hall isn't out, everything doesn't fall apart? Suddenly you have to play Dan Burn at left back and you don't get exposed like they did in the Brentford game, where Brentford just target that channel over and over and over again. Like, you close off some of the gaps that are really starting to hurt you across these games. Like, I don't think Newcastle are that far away. And I think we're starting to see players come in and understand the system a little bit more and give them that depth that they need to be able to cope with European football. but they're not there yet, and it's hurting them in major ways.
And when the difference is so stark when they play with the fullbacks and when they don't have them. Like, so there was a spell where Hall and Tino were out. I mean, they're amazing players. Obviously, they're going to be worse for it, but they don't have fullbacks outside of these guys. So yes, something to consider for January for sure. And January can change the equation for all of the teams that we've talked about. We mentioned it a bit with Villa and Palace, ins and outs, but not so much with Brighton and Everton. I don't know what the spending capacities at Everton are going to be.
I don't think that Brighton and Everton are, you look at them and think you need certain pieces in place in the way that you do with Palace or Villa or Newcastle. You're like, there are just certain spots that need plugging with those teams. And look, maybe it's no surprise that they're the teams with European football, right?
That can't be a coincidence.
But I do think also there are just holes in those teams where I think with kind of Everton and Brighton, with Brighton it's about consistency, and with Everton it's about like, can they cut out, as you were saying, Sam, that sort of 15% where it all just goes completely haywire for 15, 20 minutes at a time.
Yeah. There is, I would say, a bit of a storm coming in Newcastle next summer. Trippier, Kraft, Lascelles are all out of contract. So is Fabian Schär. You'd imagine probably all of them will leave. Livramento, I think, will be another target of Man City. You'd have thought. I mean, surely they wanted him last summer. I don't think that's a sort of transfer target that you kind of back away from. That's potentially a lot of new defenders to try and sign in one summer. So maybe they keep Schär for another year, but Trippier is probably not going to be the same player that he has been. Kraft, I think, has... It's amazing that he's lasted so long, I would say, at Newcastle, to be without being totally mean. And what I would say about the derby is I don't think there's a Premier League derby that form matters least in as well. Like, we consistently beat Newcastle when we were in the Premier League, and they were a much better side than us for all of those years. We'd always beat them. We'd always find a way. So us being above Newcastle on the table going into Sunday, for me, means very little.
Talking of the derby, do you think we just talked about Newcastle being good in blood and thunder? Like, surely this is a blood and thunder game. Surely, like, this is the most blood and thunder game, and the Sunderland players are going to come up for this and be like, right, this is it. This is the one. They're going to understand exactly what this means. Does that play right into Newcastle's hands?
Quite possibly. I think it could be one of the most entertaining games of the season. Not necessarily in terms of attacking quality, but oh my days, both sides are going to be really at it. Like, there are some really, really physically intense players in this Sunderland side, and we know all about the Newcastle ones as well. I think there's a very, very decent chance there's a red card in it as well.
And I know who it's going to.
I do worry about Trey Hume.
It's going to be Reynildo, trust me.
Or him. Or Xhaka. Even though Xhaka has been pretty solid on the discipline front so far this season. But yeah, it could go to either of those two. Trey Hume, no one puts in harder challenges. They're not always necessarily completely legal, I would say. But oh my gosh, he can go in hard.
Oh, okay. So are you excited?
I am excited. I'm a mixture of all sorts of emotions.
I bet you are.
Kind of terrifying.
I haven't played a derby in ages.
No. The last one when Grealish got punched?
It was.
Yeah. God, hopefully that doesn't happen this weekend.
Cannot rule it out. It was, yeah. I just had to think about that for a second. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's like 6 years ago.
Long time.
Genuinely. It's been that long since Birmingham were in the same division as us. So yeah, you can't play them if they're not in the same division. Hopefully that will continue. But at the moment, with these big stadium plans and Tom Brady and all this,
you can't be scared of
boots are starting
to quake. The stadium looks well cool. Cool. And they got your man from the Peaky Blinders to announce it. It was just great stuff.
It does. There was a lot of snide over the stadium, but I thought it looked really cool. And I'm all for like building a stadium that looks like slightly different to the one that all of the other teams have. Like all of them. Spurs and Everton, same.
Yeah.
Arsenal, Benfica, and there's a team in Brazil who have basically the same stadium as well. I noticed at the weekend. What is going on there? So yeah, let's have a bit of individuality. Christ. Anyway, they're not coming up, so it doesn't matter. Right, we sorted it. No, we haven't.
Well, we sort of did. Should we do some predictions?
Yeah.
I still think...
Love predictions.
And I don't know whether everyone agrees with me on this. I would be amazed if Arsenal, Man City and Chelsea weren't 3 members of the top 5. To be totally honest, I still think there's a very decent chance that Liverpool get in there as well, despite the chaos at the moment.
Well, yeah, Liverpool. I mean, they're in crisis at the moment, but they're 3 points off 5th. So, like, let's be real here. It doesn't take a lot for this to fix itself. With the quality of players they have, they should be above most of these teams.
For sure. Okay, so
is that 1 spot left?
We've got 1 spot left. I think it's Villa. I'm doing the job of Sam here. I think it's Aston Villa.
Right now, I'd agree with you.
Yeah, I agree right now.
Is that
and also, the last 3 years agrees with you as well.
Yeah.
Just depends on those priorities, doesn't it? just depends on. I'm willing to count Everton out as just not good enough, Brighton out as too inconsistent, and Palace out as too stretched, which leaves Villa of the ones we've discussed outside of Newcastle. But of course, the spots aren't only available to the non-big six sides. They have to come back into the equation. So City and Chelsea and Liverpool are right there. So it's not the question we're asking, but it's about whether or not Tottenham and Manchester United are able to outlast Villa. And that, again, looks
feeling that.
very unlikely on Tottenham's perspective. And who knows with Man United? They lurched from ridiculously awful to actually quite good to ridiculously awful again within the space of a week.
Yeah.
So
my prediction for 6th, if anyone cares, is Newcastle. Out of all the sides we've mentioned, and Man United and Spurs, I just think they'll finish 6th.
I think that's a reasonable shout.
Yeah.
Reasonable shout indeed.
Hot takes.
There you go. The big difference between Villa and those teams right now, they can grind out wins. Tottenham, Newcastle, Man United, all dropping points left, right and centre late in games. I'm watching it happen with a slight smile on my face, as like Man United outplay West Ham for 80 minutes and then just randomly concede, as Newcastle outplay Tottenham for 95 minutes and randomly concede. These are the difference makers right now. And when I sort of talked about the Villa muscle memory earlier, this is kind of driving this. So if that continues, a lot of the time it's about what's in there as well. So interesting, but they'd have to be my pick. Oh, I'm feeling good about that. My pre-season prediction was Villa 4th.
Was it?
Yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah.
I
mean, obviously that was really stupid.
Well, I could still be right, but I did say 9th.
Yeah. 4th to 9th.
4th to 9th. That sort of area.
The perfect bracket. 4th to 9th, where everyone wants to land.
I think I had them 6th, and right now we have them 5th. I'm feeling okay about that.
Yeah,
That's
nice.
pretty good. All right. Doogie, thanks for joining me and talking about all of these different teams.
Thank you very much, Sam. Can all the listeners and watchers wish Sunderland luck for this weekend, please?
Yes. Just a quick second for that. Remember that time you paused as if you were literally going to hear something?
Come in. Yeah.
It didn't happen again.
It didn't, no.
Weird.
I could
Jack,
hear them at home.
thank you for overseeing the production.
Thank you, Sam. Always a pleasure. That was fun. I enjoyed myself.
Very good. And I've had a great week. Just a phenomenal week. I've been walking on clouds.
Good.
A goal like that, a moment like that, and a result like that. I don't care if Saliba and Gabriel were injured. A moment like that is worth savouring. And I've watched the goal in slow-mo with Titanic music over 50 times.
I love it when they do that.
So I honestly hope Villa never play again.
Retire.
It genuinely is one of those results. I'm like, could do with 3 weeks off.
Yeah.
Like, just need to come down from that. So, West Ham away on Sunday. No better way to come back down to earth. we will see. Right, all that's left for me to do is to say thank you to the listeners, to the Rank Squad. Love you all. See you same time next week.
KDH BDO.